welcome to Bobby and Ryan's Film Show. I'm Bobby.
I'm Ryan.
I was looking at this list before I came over today. It was the top movies spoiled by the trailers. And
Really?
it had Castaway on there. I never realized that was actually in the trailer show him getting off the island and what his life is like after. And they say how long he was gone for.
I don't remember the trailer exactly, but I do remember people talking about a scene where Tom Hanks meets Helen Hunt after he got off the island.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never really saw the trailer for that. I kind of caught the movie pretty late.
Yeah. That was one that I didn't see the trailer, like the conventional trailer for. I think I'd only seen the TV advertisements for it. But like, why? Like, I don't know why they were just spoiling shit like that.
I don't know. I think I mentioned last time that I don't watch full trailers too much. I'll watch the teaser, I'll watch the first trailer, but now they have, like, for The Rise of Ultron, Avengers, they have, like, a third trailer for that. I have no interest in seeing that.
Yeah, you don't need to see that much of it.
I don't want to see the third act of a movie until I'm watching the movie.
Mm-hmm. They also, they actually had, we were talking about this last, Snowpiercer was the movie that I didn't know anything about going into it, and I guess the trailer for that spoiled everything, where they show each compartment of the train in the trailer.
Yeah, I never really paid attention.
That was part of the intrigue for me.
I never paid attention to the trailer, really. I just kind of knew that the movie was out there. I wanted to see it, but yeah, I don't go out of my way to watch trailers anymore. It's really not worth it.
One they had too was the Ron Howard film, Mel Gibson, Ransom. The twist where he turns the ransom into a bounty, I guess that was in the trailer too, which is weird because that is one of the coolest sort of like character choices or twists in a movie that I can remember of all time. Like,
yeah, isn't that kind of like well known though? Like it was based on a TV show.
It was an original idea, but I saw that when I was really young, and that was another thing, like not knowing what the characters were going to do.
Yeah, that's a big part of that movie.
What was the other big one they had on there that? Oh, they had the Terminator 2. I guess the way they revealed in the trailer that Arnold Schwarzenegger was the good guy in the second one, which it's an interesting notion to, like, what if they, I mean, you'd never be able to hide that in today's world, but back then, what if they completely hid that?
Yeah.
And there's two ways they could have gone about it. They pretty much make it clear in the trailer, the original trailer for it, that he is the good guy, and they kind of make that into a thing. Mm-hmm. But what if they had done it in a way where they're presenting him...
Is that recording?
Should be.
I don't know. We have all the shit on this one, though.
Yeah, we do. Oh, I never hit record, I just hit play.
Good thing we have a backup.
I know, this is why. 1, 2, 3, 4. So, like, they could have, in the trailer, they present him as the good guy, but what they could have done is, what if they just play it in a way where they show him where he's driving around at the beginning, chasing after...
Hunting down John Connor.
And then just right at the end of the trailer, they have him say, "Come with me if you want to live." Or they could have just done it in a way where they don't reveal at all who's the good guy or the bad guy. And I think when I was watching the movie with the commentary, which is a fantastic commentary, by the way, with James Cameron.
Yes.
They actually wrote it in a way where the first act, you don't really realize that he is...
That's the way the first movie was, too. You just see these two guys come back from wherever the hell, you don't even know at that point, if you've never seen the movie before. Everybody kind of knows the story by now. Mm-hmm. That would be a very interesting movie to, if you just had your mind erased and then watched it again with no knowledge whatsoever. Mm-hmm. You really don't know, like, is the Terminator the bad guy? Obviously he is, he's killing people at the beginning, but you don't know, like, what Kyle Reese is there for. You don't know whose side he's on.
Well, that was the one of the things when they were writing the second one. They said in the commentary they couldn't, if he was going to be the good guy in the second one, they couldn't have him killing people in the in those opening scenes before you really understand that when he gets together with John Connor, he's protecting him.
Oh, and he's throwing the bikers around that bar.
Yeah, like they and Arnold Schwarzenegger brought up, like, how come I'm not killing anybody? I'm the Terminator. And they're like, well, because you're a good guy in this one, and we can't really have you killing people. And he's like, well, then how about I just beat the shit out of all of them? So that's like how they had to get around that.
But at the beginning of that movie, he wasn't like programmed to not kill people.
Yeah.
It wasn't until John Connor kind of convinced him, like, you can't just go around killing people.
Because he was like under his service.
They could have had him just rip those bikers apart.
Yeah.
And just totally dominate them, but yeah, that would have been that would have been a little extreme if that you're supposed to see him as the hero.
Oh man, and they do it so well by having Robert Patrick as the cop. Like you think, oh yeah, he's gonna be a good guy. And
oh yeah, this is better. Like he's more trained than Kyle Reese, and yeah, no, not at all.
That's a fantastic movie that needs to be watched with the commentary. So hopefully we'll include a link to that show today. Oh, by the way, spoilers on everything. Speaking of the spoilers and trailers, spoilers and film shows. So what I want to talk about this week, we have a list. Best 50 films of the decade. We're halfway through. This list was published on the IndieWire's playlist blog. So I thought we'd go through that and kind of talk about what they're looking at now that we're halfway through the decade. And
I'm glad somebody picked up on the fact that 5 years have passed, and this is the 6th year for the tens, I guess we're calling them. So yeah, they have 50 movies here. It's a very interesting list. It's kind of a weird list, not in the sense that the movies that they chose are. I don't know. It's like the movies themselves are weird. It's not the collection of them. It's skewed a lot more towards independent and art house films.
Right.
There's very little really popular movies on this list.
I don't think there's one comic book movie on there. I could be wrong. I don't know.
I
think
don't
there's any Marvel movies on there.
No, not at all.
And not to denigrate the list. I mean, this is just some people's collection. I just kind of want to go off this to get a discussion going. I'm sure we'll agree in places, disagree in others.
Yeah, and it's kind of beneficial, I guess, that their list is kind of heavy towards one spectrum of filmmaking, and they don't really touch on a whole lot of other movies that I know I like a lot and that I would like to see on a list of the best of the decade so far.
Yeah.
So, you want to start it off?
Yeah, we'll go through the list. What do we got at number 50?
Spring Breakers.
Spring Breakers, a Harmony Korine film. Have you seen it?
Nope.
I have seen it. It is one of my favorite films of 2013, I believe it came out. Well, first off, I'm a big fan of Harmony Korine. Kids, I mean, if there's, for anybody that's ever wanted to pursue filmmaking as a young individual, the movie Kids is just an inspiration, because I mean, Harmony Korine is just this. He was a kid when he wrote that, and kind of coming from nowhere, and
Kids was
this great screenplay out there.
Kids was a good movie. That was
and it's very
it was surprisingly good for somebody so young and inexperienced.
Yeah, the dialogue in it is just, he has such an ear. He's such an interesting character, and that movie's very off the rails and definitely provoking. And he's made a career out of that with Gummo, Mr. Lonely.
What is Spring Breakers actually about?
Well, Spring Breakers, it's about these 4 college chicks who, they just want to go on spring break. They want to go party at the beach, and they don't have the money to do it. So what they do is they concoct this scheme to rob this restaurant to get the money to go on spring break. And they go on spring break and they party, and one thing leads to another. One thing leads to another. They wind up with this bizarre character that James Franco plays. He's like this kind of criminal involved in every aspect of crime you can think of.
Yeah, he's the only thing that I really know about this movie, that he's in it and that he was great in it.
He's terrific in it. I think it might be my favorite thing he's ever done. other than 127 Hours, but because I thought he was fantastic in that as well. But yeah, they kind of get hooked up with him, and it's the excess of partying just kind of, they get involved in this life of crime, and you see what it does to them. The movie is shot beautifully. I forget. I remember when I went to see it, a friend told me that he had read somewhere that Harmony Korine's direction to the DP was, "I wanted the movie to look like a bag of Skittles," and it really does.
Yeah, this still image that they have here, very colorful, and I think that's something that's missing from a lot of movies today.
Yeah,
is the use of color, not so much just color in itself, but like vibrant color and primary colors, and that's one thing that I loved about the movie Pacific Rim. So that movie's just beautiful to look at.
Yeah, I mean, people are really putting thought into making these movies look like paintings almost. And you really, when you watch Spring Breakers, you get that feeling like you're in a nightclub. The soundtrack is fantastic in it. It's sort of a mixture of pop music mixed with this sort of ambient, dark, kind of almost Trent Reznor-like music that just blends well. And another friend of mine told me that she had read that Harmony Korine, what he wanted to do was take the kind of films he made, like these off-the-rail kind of provoking or provocative subject matter, and introduce that to like the MTV generation in a more mainstream way. Selena Gomez is a supporting actor in it, and she's terrific in it. I just was blown away by her in that movie. So everybody's great in it. I love Spring Breakers. If I was making a list of the best of the decade, it would have been not number 50. It would have been way up further. But I'm glad it's on here.
All right, number 49 is a movie I'm very glad is on here. I would probably take away the 9, put it in the top 5, in my personal top 5. That'd be Drive.
Yeah. Drive.
Did you see it?
I have seen it.
Did you like it?
I'm really torn with Drive. I should watch it again. Let me tell you what I loved about Drive, the opening.
Oh yeah.
Drive, and I don't know if it was just that everything as it came after was just very under-delivered compared to that opening.
Yeah, Drive's a very strange movie.
It is
simple in its plot.
Right.
I read the screenplay before I ever saw the movie.
Oh, that's good.
And the script was far more detailed than the movie. I guess the director came in, wanted to really get rid of a lot of excess and focus the movie really on only what was essential. And in doing so, he removed a lot of nuance from the story, but he made up for it in the way the movie was shot. So the way there's certain scenes in the movie that are shot so well and that tell you so much just by the way the camera is placed and the actors are placed within the frame. I think it's a fun movie to watch after you've already seen it, because there's a lot more to really take away from it. And there's a lot of symbolism in there too. It's very subtle, like some of it's a little more obvious, like the scorpion on the jacket and the story he tells with the frog crossing the river. But there's a whole lot more going on within the movie. I think there's a lot to really discover in there. And I read the book too.
It was based on a book?
Yeah. It's, there's the book. It's a short book.
New York Times said it was perfect.
Yeah, not really. It's a great book, but very different in its design than it was from the movie. The movie's linear, very straightforward. The book jumps all over the map, Reservoir Dogs style, or The Killing, if you will.
2005. Driver works as a stunt driver by day and a getaway driver by night. He drives, that's all, until he's double-crossed. Hey, that's one sentence, sum it up.
Yep.
I'll have to actually look at this. Can I borrow this, actually? I would love to read the book and try the movie out again. I mean, I'd love to give it another chance. One thing that I was excited about with Drive, 'cause I'd rather stay positive than negative, Albert Brooks in that movie.
That was a fantastic piece of casting. I I can't remember which director who said it. I think it was David Lean, who said if you cast against type, it will always be fascinating.
Yeah.
And this is
That's why I want to see
great
Tom
example.
Hanks as a Bond villain.
Yeah.
When the Christoph Waltz in the new Bond movie was cast as the villain, I'm like, yeah, but I've seen him do that. I want Tom Hanks. But and being a lifelong Simpsons fan, it's hard to not love Albert Brooks. And I remember Martin Scorsese, I think in the Taxi Driver commentary, had similar thoughts to what David Lean is saying, where these bit parts, these little supporting characters, there was a feeling way back in the day that if you cast a comedian or somebody with a comedy background, they could really save you and take what should be a simple part and make it into something interesting. And Albert Brooks does that in Taxi Driver with the character he plays.
I forgot he was even in that.
Yeah, he really is. Just the way he talks and his mannerisms make his character so memorable. Whereas if they just got, a nobody, and a nobody could play that part. Like, you don't need somebody like Albert Brooks to play that part.
But somebody as talented as Albert Brooks
Yeah.
could bring so much more to that role.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy to think, Nemo's dad is the bad guy.
Yeah.
That's pretty wild.
And he's so, like... That really is perfect casting. That might be my favorite thing of Drive. But I was kind of... I'll give it another chance to be sure, but some of it was a little over the top. For me, the elevator scene took me out of it, and I...
Really? You didn't like
really
that?
did, yeah.
Oh, I thought that was
And
one of the best
and the
points in the
hotel
movie.
scene. It was... for everything that had come before it,
Really?
I just felt a little... That world hadn't been established. For me, it was a little hard for me to go with it.
Yeah, the way that the world is established in Drive, it's done more so in tone rather than any kind of events in the story. So I guess if you're not tuned into the movie, if you're not really into it, if it doesn't pull you in, then you're going to be left out in the open.
That's director Nicholas Winding Refn.
Yep.
I think you say his name. He did Valhalla Rising and Only God Forgives. Have you seen either of those?
I saw both.
What'd you think of them?
Only God Forgives was a challenging movie.
Yeah, I thought it was slow and irrelevant.
Yeah, it feels that way. It also feels to me like the director's trying to say something and not really doing it coherently. Kind of like when I talk, can't talk coherently sometimes.
Yeah.
Valhalla Rising, I loved.
I only saw bits and pieces of that.
It's not the kind of movie that I thought I would like,
Yeah.
but it's one of those movies. Like, I think if any other director made that movie, I wouldn't like it nearly as much. But just for some reason, I like that. I saw another one of his films that he did, Pusher.
That I haven't seen.
Apparently, it's like a trilogy. I only saw the first, and that's much different than anything else he's done. But I recommend it. There's a remake of that too, like a foreign language remake. Even though it was originally not an American film. But yeah, he has a strange catalog of movies. I'm curious to see what he does next.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a style all of his own, and good for him. And Drive, I think, will be it already is a cult classic, and it's going to stay.
Oh yeah, I would say.
Classic, and you will probably see this on the best of the decade list in 5 years. I think Drive is going to stay. People really like this movie.
Oh yeah, definitely. I would say too that it probably has the best soundtrack since Pulp Fiction.
Yeah, that's a mighty, daring compliment.
Number 48 is Boyhood.
Boyhood, yes, The Remarkable Boyhood.
I still didn't see that yet.
You haven't seen it?
No.
God, what more to say about Boyhood that you can...
Yeah, we touched on that.
Devote so much to it. Like, I feel like Boyhood deserves my attention in a way. Like, I need to write a book about it. Like, I can't just do a 5-minute little discussion. Other than, I think it's like, thank God that Richard Linklater is making movies and has made Boyhood. That's kind of how I feel about it. it's very close to like with the era that this kid grows up in is very close to the era I grew up in. I think this kid is like 20 now, maybe. I'm only a few years older than him. I mean, I was a kid basically when this kid was a kid, so
yeah.
I mean, I really understand that experience, that specific experience in that time. Ethan Hawke and Patricia Arquette are fantastic as the parents of this little boy in that film, and it's the great thing about it, I could say, is that it's not just a movie about boyhood. It really is about this family and their relationship and how they kind of have to stick together.
Yeah,
even though they can't because they're it's a broken family.
Yeah, the fact that there were Oscar nominations for acting, a lot of awards recognition for other characters besides the boy, really speaks to how the movie isn't just about him.
No, it's not.
Really about
it's the family,
everything going on, and he's the centerpiece, where everything stems from.
Yeah. It's got a great villain in it. There's really only one antagonist in one of the sections. And I don't want to... This is, for some reason, I don't know why I don't... Because I guess you haven't seen it. I don't want to spoil Boyhood for you. And it's got a great collection of what I would call just still images in that it's a very beautifully shot picture.
All right.
It's Richard Linklater's masterpiece. It's one of the greatest films ever made, and I'm just so happy that people are making films like that. And
do you think the movie's going to be well received, let's say, 10 years from now? After,
I think it will.
Because a lot of the recognition that it got was for the fact that it was shot over 12 years.
And that's what I was kind of nervous about going in. It's like, well, is this just...
Yeah, not a whole lot of people talked about the plot or what the movie was actually about. It was more about the way it was shot.
And it's, regardless, if it comes down in a few years, people are just like, well, here's this movie that they took 12 years to make. It's still an interesting process.
And it's still impressive.
Unto itself. Yeah, it's a remarkable that they got that done. But, and I was worried going into it, like, is it just going to be the gimmick? Is there going to be substance to it? And there really is. They really touched on a deep story with this family. And it will be, you watch it in 20 years, you're watching the evolution of this family and this kid grow up, which I think is an interesting story unto itself.
All right. Are we moving on?
Yeah. That's all I got on Boyhood.
47.
I can go on forever about Boyhood.
We have 47 more movies to go through.
Yeah.
And 47 is Tom at the Farm.
Tom at the Farm, which I haven't seen.
I haven't even heard of.
I don't think that it's a French film, I think, and I don't believe that there's even a copy out there you can get that has English subtitles on it. I think it's only screened at festivals with...
Wow. Yeah, it says here...
I haven't been able to find anything.
It's the only list without a proper U.S. theatrical release.
Interesting.
So, I don't know. That's probably why I haven't seen it.
Yeah.
Don't really know much about it.
No, I think... I don't know. I haven't seen it. I'm interested to see it.
Yeah, we probably shouldn't talk about things that we haven't really seen.
Yeah.
Don't really know anything about.
Don't know anything about it.
But I have seen number 46, Birdman.
Birdman.
We touched on this last time.
We did. And I kind of feel the same way about it.
Yeah, the one thing that I just came to my mind recently was the fact that Birdman is not exactly a movie that I have a desire to watch again.
Yeah.
If I do watch it again, it will be not for the story. It'll be more for the performances, the acting, the way it was shot.
Right.
Even though it's not really cinematography, it's more done on a computer.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of not a fan of that. But if I do see the movie again, It's not going to be for the story of this guy, this actor trying to put on this play and get. I just don't care.
It's a very familiar story. I didn't feel like there was anything going on story-wise that maybe I hadn't seen before. But everybody who's involved in it is a master, and they're all at the top of their game, I think. Edward Norton, I haven't seen such a good Edward Norton performance in such a long time.
Oh, he was one of my favorite actors maybe 10 years ago.
Yeah, he just hasn't done anything as good in so long. It's like, Edward Norton needs to be in more things. And
yeah, where's American History X, Edward Norton?
Yeah, Primal Fear, Edward Norton.
Or one of my all-time favorite movies, 25th Hour, Edward Norton.
Spike Lee joint.
Yes.
He
this
needs
movie.
to do more stuff like that.
When I said the list is weird, like in the sense that a lot of the movies on it are strange, Birdman's definitely an example of that. I think it does a lot of there's a lot of artistic flourishes to the movie that aren't necessarily demanding for this story. Like, the story doesn't demand that it's shot in this way. It doesn't. It feels like the style was overtaking the substance.
And I think that it's shot that way because it's about a play, and they're trying to capture that singular experience of a play where you're just watching what is ultimately one image kind of playing out in front of you. We're not cutting between.
Yeah.
It's all kind of just one sweeping.
I think that would have worked better if the story was a real-time story where there were no time lapses, but then you see fades to the next day.
Yeah.
And that, to me, is the same as cutting away.
Yeah.
It kind of ruins the whole seamless feel in it.
Yeah, I mean, and Hitchcock had to do what he had to do with Rope, because he's shooting on film. He can't just go continuously. He has to change the reels out. But it's confined into one location. It's presented like it's in real time, and I think that works more on the benefit of that film. And had Birdman, let's just say they kind of contained Birdman to the theater, just kind of keep it in that building. I mean, it's cool that they're going out into New York City and everything, but like you said, it's when you go to different days and different locations and you're kind of fading away, it's like you're cutting almost.
Yeah, exactly.
I think Birdman too, it's suffering now because it won Best Picture, and it's kind of like the cool thing is getting a little mainstream. I think people are kind of starting to turn on it in a way where had it have just kind of flown under the radar, it would have been like you need to see Birdman. It would have been a Criterion release.
Yeah, probably. I think the Oscar win maybe kind of hurt the movie a little bit in a sense that
in a cinephile circle.
Yeah, it's not really hurting the movie.
Yeah, no.
It's obviously it's going to get
a little too cool now.
It's going to get a hell of a lot more Blu-ray sales now.
Yeah.
It's going to be seen by a lot more people that probably wouldn't have watched it beforehand. So that's great for the movie. It's great for the business. But it's in a sense where a lot of people are pulling for Boyhood or other movies that they felt were more deserving. Birdman wins, they're going to be turned against Birdman.
I know.
Probably.
There are people in the world who care about that. So
yeah, and when you get right down with it, it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme. Mm-hmm. But it's one of those movies that I don't know. I don't think it deserved to win. Would you put it on your top 50 list?
Top 50? I probably would.
Top
50? It'd be higher up. Top 50 of the decade so far. I could see Birdman on there, yeah. Just in the simple, I'm such a grown up with Batman. I'm a big Michael Keaton fan. I'm glad he's getting
he was
a role like this. He's so
movie.
Good in it. Like I said, everybody who's involved in it, they're all masters, and they're at the top of their game.
Yeah, they're doing some of their best work that they've done in a long time. Keaton, Norton.
Emma Stone is fantastic in it. Naomi Watts is in it too. One of my favorites. But the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences said that this was the best picture.
If I were to put it on my top 50, I'd probably put it 46, probably right where it is.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be. It's not one of my favorite movies, but it's a good movie. It's well made, and I can't take that away from that. Like,
No.
there's a lot of great work that was done here. Just because I didn't like it doesn't mean it's not good.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't have much more to say on that.
I don't either. I think we've given Birdman its fair share of...
Here's a movie I have quite a lot to say about.
What number are we on? 45?
45. Inception.
All right.
You go first.
Nolan's masterpiece. No, maybe Batman Begins is Nolan's. Maybe Nolan's greatest creation, because he didn't create Batman.
That's fair.
Yeah, Batman Begins, I think, is probably his masterpiece. And that's my favorite film of his. But if we take that aside, this Inception is Nolan's greatest accomplishment, because it actually is his.
I think it's the best idea that he's had for a movie. It's probably either this or Memento.
Yeah.
I like Inception more, not because of what was done with the idea, but the possibilities of the idea. I don't think Nolan really exploited this premise for all it was worth. I thought he handled it very poorly.
Really?
To me, it was like Michael Crichton came up with Jurassic Park, which is one of the greatest ideas ever for a story.
Yeah.
You could tell it in 3 words: dinosaur amusement park. Who is not sold on that idea?
Yeah.
And then we get Jurassic Park 2. Doesn't really do the idea justice.
No, it doesn't.
This is, to me, it's Jurassic Park 2. It's not Jurassic Park. When it should have been, it could have been easily. It's such a good idea, but there are so many really fundamental issues with the movie that I can't forgive. I'll offer an example. There's a lot of talking in this movie, a lot of questions being asked, a lot of exposition that I don't think had to be there. Mm-hmm. The whole scene where Leo's talking with Ellen Page and they're folding Paris over on itself, and the cafe explodes, and then they're walking and pulling these giant mirrors, and all this stuff's happening. And the purpose of this scene is to illustrate and communicate to the audience that you can't change the dreams. You can, you have that ability, but if you do, all these projections are going to come after you, and it's going to be a bad thing. Mm-hmm. You're going to have a bad time. That scene is explaining why you can't do that is longer than any scene in the movie where they do that. There's only one instance in the mission where they alter the dream in some significant way, and that's when Leo pretends to be Mr. Charlie to talk with Cillian Murphy to get him to go up to the hotel room, and all that happens in that scene is a bunch of people, a bunch of extras, sitting around at the bar just turning to look at him. Yeah. And that's it.
Yeah, they make a big... They sort of introduce a villain that really isn't there.
Yeah, exactly. And when I saw that in the theater, when they were explaining all these things that you couldn't do, I was excited to see the moments in the mission. Obviously this never happened, but I was excited to see points where they were forced to alter the dream and forced into situations where they had to do the thing that they didn't want to do. Mm-hmm. So all this conflict would generate, and that just never happened.
It would seem in a way where if they are doing that, it actually makes Cillian Murphy a more solid villain and his defense mechanisms, whereas the villain ultimately is Leonardo DiCaprio's inability to get over his dead wife.
Yeah,
she keeps showing Marion Cotillard is the villain in that almost. She's the antagonist, coming and ruining things for them.
Yeah,
which is his own. That's his own feeling.
Yeah, and that's
the dreams.
That's the only true obstacle that they have to overcome. Why even bring him along on this mission? What did he do that Joseph Gordon-Levitt couldn't have done? Mm-hmm. Where was the scene where Leo was had to be there? That his skills were put on display. They could have just fucking left him at home.
Yeah.
And went on and do this thing, and the whole plot for an energy corporation to overthrow another one just feels like it was made up on the spot. It tied in no way, and not in terms of plot, not in terms of theme, with Leo getting back to his kids. Nobody else on the team cared. Like, what do they care if this guy loses his business or this other guy doesn't? What do they care? I think maybe a better idea would have been to, instead of the Energy Corporation, there's this random MacGuffin type thing that just doesn't really factor into the movie in a significant way. What if instead there was something that, like, planting this idea in this guy's head would be a bad thing for Leo's character? So he has to choose between accomplishing this mission and hurting himself in some other way, or hurting somebody else, like maybe even somebody on his team, and like between that and getting his family back. There's a whole lot that could have been done that just wasn't done, and do you know Rob Ager?
Yeah.
His videos, he has a series of videos on YouTube called How Inception Could Have Been Better. He touches on a lot of this and a lot of other things, and I agree with almost everything he said, but I can't say only bad things about this movie. It does some things very well. Like I said, the concept's great. I like the fact that Leo's character is really, like, he cares about what he's doing. Like, he has a goal, and he really wants to achieve that goal. And that's the kind of thing that you need for almost any movie. I think that was done very well. A lot of other things in the movie weren't.
Yeah. I was taken with it. The only thing I kind of, if I had anything negative to say, I would say Ellen Page's character. I would have loved to have gone through that movie without having all that exposition.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that would have been fun, but I understand why she needs to be there.
Yeah, I mean, but the problem is she's not a character. She's a warm body that was placed in this movie for one purpose, and then she does that. And the same thing with Joseph Gordon-Levitt. He's just there because they need a guy there to do this thing at one point. He's not like a character. He doesn't have character traits. He doesn't have like a point of view. He doesn't have goals of his own or fears or any kind of desire. He's just a great actor. Imagine this movie with lesser actors. Would anybody think it's as great as it would be? I mean, because nothing against the actors, they did a fine job, but there's nothing there for them to do. When you see these people in this movie, you're not impressed by the characters. You're impressed by the actors.
I'm going to compare it to one of my favorite films, Ocean's 11, Steven Soderbergh's, which is similar in a way where it's this kind of heist movie, which only one of the guys on the crew has a clear goal other than breaking in and getting the stuff that they want to steal. Ocean's 11, George Clooney's trying to get his wife back. That's really what he's after. And his whole crew, it's just this interesting assembly of people who, other than the way they act, there's not much depth to them.
Yeah, that's a problem I had with Inception. They're not interesting. Tom Hardy in this movie is boring as shit.
Whereas, could you say in a movie like Ocean's 11, they're all, even though maybe they don't have clear goals other than stealing the money, they're all these sort of fleshed out, unique characters.
Yeah.
Kind of just like hanging out with.
They feel more like people.
Yeah.
And Inception, they didn't feel like people. They felt like warm bodies.
You don't want to hang out with that crew.
No. What would I do? Like, I don't know. I mean, I own the movie on Blu-ray. I own the script, a hard copy of it. I don't dislike the movie completely. There are good things about it, but it's very upsetting to me that when you have a concept like this that you could do so much with, and I see a movie that just doesn't do it, that's really disappointing to me.
I think it accomplishes a lot, and I saw it in real IMAX when it first came out, and it was a great experience, and that was another one of those, everybody coming out of the movie theater just speechless, taking in what they saw.
Yeah, just the sheer power of seeing a movie that you really haven't seen anything like before. At least not in a popular sense, or
I mean,
lesser
the Matrix was the big comparison.
Yeah, Dreamscape,
Yeah.
that old '80s movie that nobody's seen. Oh, I mean, what percentage of Inception's audience has seen Dreamscape?
Mm-hmm.
Very little. But I do want to mention before we move on another YouTube video from A.D. Jameson where he talks about movies, and the title of the video is The Opening Scenes of Inception. It's a pretty short video, 11 minutes long, but he talks about the opening of this movie and how Christopher Nolan didn't really do that great of a job. I agree with everything he said. It just goes back to a lot of the fundamental issues with this movie, that it tries to be so like intelligent and grand in its ideas, but it forgets to do the simple things like create characters.
Yeah.
So I could talk for a long time about Inception. Probably shouldn't do it though.
Well, regardless, he's done his job by getting such a passionate response out of you.
Yeah, for better or for worse. I mean, yeah, it's not a good thing to disappoint people though.
Yeah.
Just because people are talking about you doesn't mean that, you know, your job's done. But yeah, can't take it away from him though. Like, he did make a movie that a lot of people like. Are you ready to move on?
Okay. I can't beat that with Inception.
44, another sci-fi movie. And I'm surprised to see this movie on the list because it is very popular. And, you know, like Inception, it's not the kind of movie that you're going to see a whole lot of on this list. This is Gravity.
Oh, yes. Gravity. Gravity... I really enjoyed Gravity, but it was one of those... Louis C.K. ruined Gravity for me.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing.
Everybody out there, just watch Gravity, form your own opinion, and then see what Louis C.K. has to say about it, and then let me know how you feel afterward. Gravity was a tremendously well-made picture.
Oh, hell yeah.
And, you know, even look up what Neil deGrasse Tyson had to say about it, too, because that kind of...
Oh, yeah, he had a lot to say about the science. Yeah, he makes it feel like a Hollywood, just popcorn blockbuster movie.
They almost make you feel guilty for liking
yeah, almost.
that movie.
I liked Gravity. I saw it once in theaters, I think once on Blu-ray. Both times it was a good experience. It is definitely one of those movies, though, where you have to see it on a huge screen.
Yeah. Well, that was another movie that got ruined for me, but there was some asshole snoring really loudly when I saw it, and it was louder than, like, that was a loud movie when she's in some of those space stations, and just this dude was, like, louder, and the louder the movie'd get, the louder he'd get. It was...
Oh, man.
Frightening.
One thing I like about Gravity, though, is the simplicity of the movie. It kind of just tells its story. There aren't very many subplots. It's
it really is just this woman
it's
trying
like,
to get back onto Earth from space.
It's the counterpoint to Inception. It's very toned down, very focused.
Yeah. It's simplicity really works in its favor. I mean, if you tried to make that a 2.5 hour sort of cerebral film with that plot, I think it would kind of fall apart.
Yeah, a lot of people complained originally about the lack of, like, real character development. Like, Sandra Bullock's missing her kid and now she's in space, and George Clooney's this guy's retiring, and that's about it. And but, like, what more do you really need for them to go through what they're about to go through when this catastrophe happens? You don't really need a whole lot more. Maybe there could have been a little bit more. I don't think it would have harmed the movie to a great degree unless you kind of went overboard and it became more of a character piece. But because it's not the kind of movie, to me it was all right. Like, I didn't really have a problem with the characters.
Yeah. I can remember where it was a scene of discussion, that scene when George Clooney comes back uh, late in the film.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was such a great scene.
Yeah, Gravity. It's. I'm surprised to see it on the list, but I'm glad it's there. It's a incredibly well made movie.
I don't know if I would even. I don't think it's Alfonso Cuarón's best movie.
No, I would say that's. To me, that would be Y tu mamá también.
To me, it would be Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban.
It's definitely the best Harry Potter movie.
It is.
And then Children of Men is.
Which Children of Men probably would be my favorite of his, but the ending kind of takes me out of Children of Men.
The ending, I didn't have a problem with Children of Men. The thing with Children of Men for me was, and I didn't notice this until I saw the movie like for the third time, was the heroes in this movie. They go to these super secret like hideaways, and then they hang out there for a while. And I mean, like literally, they're just sitting around chilling, like not really doing a whole lot. And then the villains somehow show up there just to keep the story going. There's like no reason for them to even know where this is. When you think about it that way, it's like, yeah, maybe they could have done a little bit more, but with that part of the story. But everything else was great.
I haven't seen it in a while. I'll look at it again. But Gravity, just look at what Louis C.K. said about it.
I agree. What about number 43, Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy?
Which is a Thomas, I think it's Thomas Alfredson
Yep.
film. Who is the director is great in my book because he made Let the Right One In, one of my all-time favorites.
Yeah, you know what's crazy about Let the Right One In? Is that movie was made for less money than James Cameron's The Terminator. It does not look like it in any way.
No, that's why it's such an incredible movie.
Yeah, and I wanted to see Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy before we talked about it here, but I just didn't get to it. I heard great things about it, though.
You haven't seen it?
Nope.
It's a very subdued espionage film in a lot of ways. It's almost like it's kind of Gary Oldman just lamenting this world that he was a part of, and what that kind of does to you as a person. He's great in it, and it's shot by Hoyt van Hoytema, so you're not gonna be disappointed at what you're seeing. I don't know if I'd put it on my best of the decade.
Really?
Because it is kind of it's a patient film, which means you got to be a patient audience if you're watching it. It's not really as exciting as you would think for what is a spy movie. It's
more like what spy activity would really be like.
Yeah, it kind of is. Like, it's not the exciting breaking in.
It's not James Bond.
Yeah, it's more like the sitting and waiting, listening in on somebody and just for 2 hours for that one moment. It's kind of like the game. There was this old video game system. It was called like the Philips CDI, I think, and there was a game on it called Voyeur, where you were literally a voyeur in the woods, looking in on this mansion, trying to get a picture to blackmail this politician. And that's what the game was, just kind of sitting and waiting, and that's what real espionage is, I guess, and that's what Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy is, in a lot of ways.
Oh, I can't say anything more about it.
I mean, I'd recommend it.
Yeah,
for Gary Oldman's performance, it's amazing that he hadn't been recognized Oscar-wise before that, because he's done such great work.
Yeah, he really has been. You look at his catalog of movies, and it's really impressive. Number 42 is a movie called Night Moves.
Night Moves? Is that the Kelly Reichardt film, I think you would say?
Yep.
Name Jesse Eisenberg?
Yeah, I saw the Gene Hackman Night Moves from the 70s, that neo-noir thriller. That's not this movie.
Well, Night Moves is interesting. It's one of those movies, I didn't know anything about it when I saw it. I really like the movie Wendy and Lucy that the director made. To plug that with Michelle Williams, I would recommend everybody see that. But with Night Moves, What I liked most about it is that we don't have Jesse Eisenberg playing Jesse Eisenberg.
Yeah, that could be annoying at times.
Yeah, he's not playing Jesse Eisenberg in this, which is fascinating to see, like, him actually develop as an actor and play a more reserved character.
Yeah.
Peter Sarsgaard isn't as well. He's kind of playing himself though. As like this, he's good at playing like that character he plays in Garden State. I don't know how would you describe that kind of like that.
I don't know.
Smart kind of bad kind of guy.
Yeah, that's. I don't know. He's a great actor. He plays some odd roles sometimes.
Yeah, he's like he's like when you get a job and it's your first job and you're working with, you know, like the cool older guy that's kind of, you know, he does bad things, but like it's not like he's not a bad guy, but like that's kind of what Peter Sarsgaard to me is in a lot of ways. Do you know what it's about?
It's something about a dam.
Yeah, there's basically eco-terrorism where they're trying to blow up a dam. But what's interesting about it is that it's not like that's not the whole. It's not like, okay, we're gonna blow up the dam. Here's how we're gonna do it, and then by the end, it's what happens. I mean, you know, it's broken up into two parts. It's before and after, and unfortunately, the aftermath just isn't as engaging as the before math. You know, you would think the aftermath of something like that should be the more interesting thing. The way people actually cope with it once they do it, and it just didn't. You know, it's not Treasure of Sierra Madre in a lot of ways. So
I do want to see it. It's a hard movie to really get a hold of unless you kind of go out of your way.
Yeah.
It didn't have. I don't think it had a theatrical release around here. If it did, it was probably in for like a day.
Yeah.
Or a week at the most, with like 2 showings.
I don't think it came out here at all.
But it is something I am curious to see.
I'd recommend it, but it's, you know, the people deciding to do what they're going to do and how they're confident about it and how they go, you know, working up the courage to do that was more interesting than how they feel once they actually do it.
Would you say it's in your top 50?
No.
No?
No.
What about number 41, Martha, Marcy, May, Marlene?
Ooh, that might be in my top 50. That, I think this list talks about how beautifully edited that movie is, and that is a hypnotically edited film.
Yes, it definitely is. I saw it not knowing very much about it.
Me too. I didn't. That was one I kind of went into blind.
I knew it was about this girl who kind of went into this extended family type cult almost. And I watched the movie. It was enjoyable for the most part. Everybody did great work. But to me, it felt like there wasn't enough content to justify its length as a feature film.
Really?
And by the time it was over, I thought this would have worked a lot better as a short film.
Think?
Yeah, definitely. And afterwards, I looked it up. It was based on a short film.
Was it?
Lo and behold, it was.
God, I was so unnerved by that film.
Oh, the atmosphere is great.
John Hawkes is terrifying in that movie, and that scene where he plays that song, Marcy's song. I mean, I can see how these people fell under his spell. I don't know why that works so well, and like I was really taken by that.
Yeah.
There's a scene where they break into this guy's house, and just the way John Hawkes is like talking to the guy, looking at him. I don't even remember what he says. I just remember that moment really freaking me out, and it's, you know, I was paranoid with Elizabeth Olsen's character once she gets out of that cult, and she's hanging around with her sister and her sister's husband. For those who don't know, I mean, the movie's about this woman who knows why this young woman ends up with this strange cult-like family. She's living on their farm, and then she just escapes, and they took whatever they did to her, they took a toll on her to the point where she's really afraid when she actually gets back into the real world.
And the movie's not as exciting as you're making it sound. It's not a thriller.
You know, it's a thriller in my.
It's
in my mind.
really downplayed.
Yeah,
it's all about the atmosphere.
It's a lot like Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. It is more that kind of exciting.
Yeah. It's not edge of your seat.
It's not edge of your seat thriller. It's more patient thriller.
Psychological.
Yeah.
In a sense, yeah.
And it's so much is left up to the audience to kind of fill in a lot of the blanks, in a good way. You know, it gives you just enough, and invites you to bring just enough to it. I would I don't know how far it'd be up in my top 50, but boy, it would definitely be on my list.
I'm curious to see the short film that it was based on.
Yeah,
I don't really know.
Too.
I don't really know much about it. I don't know if the idea was to make the short film as like the way Whiplash did, as like a proof of concept for fundraising, or if the director made the short film and then he decided, well, I'll make it into a feature.
Yeah.
So that should be interesting to look into. Number 40 is Nightcrawler.
Oh, Nightcrawler. If there's ever a movie I wish I made, it is Nightcrawler.
Nightcrawler to me feels like the modern day version of Billy Wilder's Ace in the Hole.
Yeah.
Where it's this guy,
it is.
completely unscrupulous, will go to any lengths to get the media attention that he needs, that he feels like he needs. And it's a really dark movie.
Yeah.
It's about bad people doing bad things, or at least this one bad guy. Yeah, that's definitely in my top 50.
He really is the extreme of that world. I think that both of us could say. I think we've known people like at least Bill Paxton's character.
Oh yeah.
In that, kind of being familiar with that world, but he's an animal in that movie. Jake Gyllenhaal. He's not a human being. He's some kind of reptile.
Yeah, his character is so well defined in that movie. You watch anything else that he's been in, and even though you know it's the same actor, it doesn't feel like it.
Yeah, his apartment is creepy in the way like the Overlook Hotel is creepy. Like that's how I feel about his apartment in that movie. Like that's that character that he plays. Lou Bloom, I think is his name in that movie.
Yeah, there's so much just texture to everything in that movie.
Yeah. And Rene Russo, who could have, the way they play that character, that could have sunk that movie.
Could have been a disaster.
But she kind of keeps it, it's...
She knew the role that she had to play.
Yeah, just enough. She doesn't go over the top, and they could have easily, with that character. Nightcrawler, I think, and I hope, will be a movie like Drive in a few years. With the way people feel about it, I think you will definitely see Nightcrawler.
Oh yeah.
On the best of the decade once we get to the end of it.
Yeah, it's because it's such a dark movie. It didn't get a lot of recognition from the press or the awards season. But the people who saw it and liked it really seemed to like that movie.
Yeah.
And it in a sense, like the same way that...
I would also like to say it's a very American movie.
Yes.
It is the most American movie. Like, if you want to know anything about America, Nightcrawler is one of them.
Yeah, if you look back at Billy Wilder's Ace in the Hole, that movie was almost forgotten about by most people for decades. The movie came out in the 50s, but it was just so dark.
What would you say is darker, Nightcrawler or Ace in the Hole?
I don't know. I'd have to think about that.
I mean, Nightcrawler, it's certainly more graphic.
Ace in the Hole surprised me more by the lengths that this guy will go to.
Yeah.
And I think both that would make an interesting double feature.
It really would. I urge everyone to do that. But Ace in the Hole, I don't know what year that came out, but that is some fucked up shit going on for whatever year.
Oh yeah.
All Billy Wilder's movies are. Billy Wilder is one of the darkest filmmakers that's ever come along. I mean, The Apartment, one of my all-time favorite movies, it's essentially a story about the guy who for lack of a better word, his friend is using his apartment so that he could fuck chicks in it because he doesn't have a place to bring it of his own.
Yep.
And to add to that, there's sort of the infidelity going along with that. But that is, can you imagine being, that's Jack Lemmon, being that guy, like that you're the one who you have to give out your apartment for something like that. It's so goofy and it is kind of like dark in a way. Sunset Boulevard, I mean, we all know how fucked up that movie is.
Yeah.
And Ace in the original poster is Kirk Douglas strangling a chick with a scarf. Like, it's some crazy shit for... They're all in a clever way because they couldn't be as graphic as they could have been. And that's what I think kind of adds to the...
Absolutely. You're forced to... find different ways to do things, like creative ways.
I remember when I was in school, my professor telling me, I don't know the movie, I would love to see the movie, but she was describing this female character. It was a way old film where they're trying to convey of how she's sleeping her way to the top in this company she works for, and it's like, how do you convey that graphically from the time it came out? You can't. You're never going to be able to show that in a film. So what they had to do is they did like a montage of this time-lapse scene of her going into the building, and it kind of time lapses, and she's going from floor to floor, and you kind of see the lights going out and coming back on. So she's sleeping her way to the top. And I don't know what movie it was.
It's clever.
But it's a clever description nonetheless, and I want to see it. And, Nightcrawler, it's sort of, the evolution of these movies in a much more graphic way. These films like Ace in the Hole, where you're doing some messed up shit.
Yeah. And the fact that in Jake Gyllenhaal in Nightcrawler, he's the protagonist. Like, he's the worst guy in the movie.
He is. And
there's just a handful of older films that got very little recognition back, like, in the 50s. And around that time, because they were so dark. Ace in the Hole's one. Sweet Smell of Success is another, one of my all-time favorites. Mm-hmm. Even Vertigo was lost for a long time. Mm-hmm. That was a disaster for Alfred Hitchcock when that movie came out. That's a dark movie.
Vertigo it took me so long to...
That's like film noir in color, almost. Yeah. And you see some of the things happening in this movie, and what Jimmy Stewart's characters having this woman do. Mm-hmm. That is extreme for 1958. But now, because
it's all hidden.
Because so many things are more acceptable to show in movies now, these older films are gaining a new audience, and a lot of people, like Ace in the Hole, Sweet Smell of Success, have Criterion releases now on Blu-ray. So I think Nightcrawler will absolutely find an audience in the years to come.
But even with, I think, the fact that I think it's good that nowadays we can kind of do whatever we want in movies, but we are getting away from that clever, more subtle filmmaking that, how guys like Alfred Hitchcock, Billy Wilder were doing. But I'm not going to argue against Nightcrawler.
Yeah, I believe it was Orson Welles who said the quote, "The enemy of art is the absence of limitation."
Yeah.
And if anybody knew that to be true, it was Orson Welles.
Yeah.
But yeah, you are right that when you're restricted to do certain things, like if you had to work within the Hays Code, you would be forced to be more creative. And I think that was responsible for the reason why some of the older films, like Notorious and a lot of Hitchcock's work and Billy Wilder, like why they are so good.
Yeah.
If they had free reign to do whatever they wanted, then I don't know.
I would have loved. Oh man, can you imagine Hitchcock? I'm intrigued by that notion. Hitchcock, like
working today,
working within his own. I mean, he was working in his own thing, but Hitchcock.
He was pushing the boundaries,
unrated,
like unbelievably, like to crazy points, like 60, 70 years ago.
Yeah.
Like for him to do whatever he wanted in a movie, I don't even know what that would look like.
Mm-hmm. Very unnerving.
Yes. Not so unnerving. Number 39, Moonrise Kingdom.
Have you seen it?
Nope.
You have not seen Moonrise Kingdom.
No, I'm not really a Wes Anderson fan.
He's an acquired taste, as I say. It's one of his better films to come out. Very imaginative film. It's a lot like Boyhood and capturing like this magic of childhood and creating this sort of like it's like what kids say, like, you know, let's play. And Moonrise Kingdom embodies that spirit in a lot of ways. It's almost like a companion piece to let the right one in. It's this romance story of these two kids, which is as, you know, innocent and as sort of enchanting as any great love story. It's probably a more European film, I would say, to the way it kind of portrays the romance between these two kids. But he does kind of capture the magic of almost like a first love in a lot of ways with Moonrise Kingdom, and it's populated with such a great adult cast. Bill Murray's a Wes Anderson regular. Frances McDormand, who you can never see enough of her.
True.
It's a lesser Edward Norton role to come recently, but it's a good Edward Norton role, and it's probably Bruce Willis's best movie that isn't Unbreakable or The Sixth Sense or Die Hard.
Or Pulp Fiction.
Yeah, Pulp Fiction even. It's very. Simply said, it's a funny movie too.
Would you recommend this as a good starting point for somebody who is unfamiliar with Wes Anderson, such as myself? Is this a good place to start, or?
I would start with Royal Tenenbaums just because it's like, see Royal Tenenbaums, it's the greatest movie ever made. Yeah, maybe second. I saw it really because I had seen pretty much all of his movies up until that point. It was like I was waiting for the next Wes Anderson movie. Yeah, I can see you starting with Moonrise Kingdom. I mean, you're not going to be disappointed. But it's also, it is kind of the next step in his career in a lot of ways, where it shows his evolution as a filmmaker compared to movies like Royal Tenenbaums, Darjeeling Limited, and Life Aquatic, which are they're all similar in a lot of ways.
Still developing his style.
Yeah, like Darjeeling Limited, the movie with Owen Wilson, Adrian Brody, and Jason Schwartzman. I mean, it's a dysfunctional family, you know, getting along in an exotic location, which is kind of similar to all the movies he'd made beforehand, except for Rushmore, which is a little more singular. Whereas Moonrise Kingdom, he's taking on something new in terms of it's a straight up love story between these two kids, and I think it was his first movie he made without Owen Wilson, and that didn't have a Rolling Stones song in it. So those were big trademarks of his. I could be wrong about that. 38. Only Lovers Left Alive. Move over, let the right one in. Really? That's what I say about Only Lovers Left Alive. No, let the right one in is. Boy, is that my favorite Jim Jarmusch film, which was taken by which would have been Stranger Than Paradise for the longest time. Only Lovers Left Alive. Do you know what it's about, or? Nope. I'm not really familiar with a lot of his work, to be honest. He makes these. He's just one of those directors that kind of evaded me. You know what? He uses music in his films the way Kubrick did. Really? Yeah. And if this is a guy who knows how to use music in his movies. And Only Lovers Left Alive, it's a vampire love story. It's vampire mythology. It's these two very old vampire lovers kind of making their way in the world. His movies are these sort of muted chamber pieces in a lot of ways. It's how Only Lovers Left Alive is. It only really takes place in 3 locations. Tom Hiddleston plays this vampire that's kind of been responsible for a lot of music. that's come along, and being a vampire, he's kind of a little, the way I felt, depressed and kind of on his own and hidden from the world. And his longtime vampire girlfriend, played by Tilda Swinton, kind of comes and hangs out with them, and we just kind of see how it's that idea of the immortal nature of love and how that can destroy you and at the same time keep you alive. It's almost like the sequel to Let the Right One In a lot of ways. But the use of music in that movie is worth it on its own.
Cool. I'll definitely check it out.
You should. Yeah, you gotta see it right away.
All right. Well, I'll just go watch it right now. We're on number 37 right now. Wow. Well, we're moving on to 37. This is Margaret.
Margaret.
Didn't see it. I saw the poster on Netflix a bunch of times when I was scrolling through. Just never got to it. I don't think it's still on there either. I don't really know anything about it, so do you?
I do. It's a long film. It's a complicated film. It had a complicated production from what I understand too. It was shot in 2005 and it wasn't released until 2012 or something. It is about a young lady who witnesses and is kind of responsible for an accident and the death of this woman, and it's really her life coping with it. But that's kind of like a minor moment in that the whole movie's really about this young lady kind of becoming, I don't say a woman in a lot of ways, but we're just kind of watching her grow up.
Coming of age?
Yeah, not coming of age so it's like this, it's this brief moment in her life and how she's coping with everything in her life. And then there's this major thing that happens, but it's like everything else that, it's not just her grieving over this death that she could have been responsible for, but it's also how she interacts with the people she goes to school with.
So it's really like a character piece, all about her. I mean, as the title would suggest.
That's what is her? What's that act?
Anna Paquin.
Yeah, Anna Paquin. God, why couldn't I think of that?
Rogue
she is
from X-Men.
Yeah, she's terrific in it. One of the more interesting female characters I've seen in a movie in a long time. Mark Ruffalo is really good in it too, as the guy that's sort of involved in this accident that they kind of caused together. It's a longer film from what I remember. And it's one of those movies, just kind of her relationship with her. I think it's her mother and her brother. I had an idea for a film that I wanted to make, and I wasn't sure if I could make it, and when I had seen Margaret, then I had known that yes, I can write this movie the way I wanted to, because of Margaret.
All right.
But everybody needs to see Margaret. I don't know if I put it on my top 50 list though.
Definitely worth seeing though.
Absolutely.
All right. What about This Is Not a Film? What the hell is it on the list for?
Have you seen that?
No, I don't even know what the hell it is.
That's a Iranian documentary, I think, about a filmmaker who couldn't. I think he was being persecuted because he was a filmmaker.
Huh.
I have it. I haven't watched it, but I know it made noise. In a lot of circles among filmmakers.
I noticed this list. This is not the only Iranian film that we'll be talking about.
No, it won't be.
And I'm totally new to the Iranian film
market.
Yeah, I didn't know that they were really doing such great productions, really making all these movies that people really seem to enjoy. It's kind of flying under the radar a little bit. Not in the way that South Korea is. Their movies are people know what's going on over there, great things are happening, but I'm curious to really dive into some of these films from Iran that seemed to be totally worthwhile.
Mm-hmm.
I can't really say much more about that.
Yeah, not having seen it, I can't.
Did you see number 35, Black Swan?
Yes.
Me too.
It's a great Darren Aronofsky movie.
Yeah, it's probably my second favorite. Number one's The Wrestler.
Really?
Yeah. Black Swan is close number two. I've only seen it like once. But it was a couple years ago, but I remember it so clearly. It's left such an impact just because of the way it was shot, the way it was.
It really is like
made.
the horror movie version of The Wrestler.
It's if Michael Powell's The Red Shoes was a horror movie.
Yeah.
That's Black Swan. I'd put it much higher than 35. I don't know.
I probably too. It's not my favorite film that he's made.
It's my favorite film that he's made this decade.
Yeah, I guess it would be. It's like it doesn't do it for me the way The Fountain does, and it didn't like Pi and Requiem for a Dream was like that's when I'm like noticing editing in movies like that's like he was building the way his movies are cut together. Back then, kind of introduced me to a new way of looking at films. Like it didn't do something like that for me, but I mean, Natalie Portman is out of fucking control in that movie.
Yeah, she deserved every award that she was given, and the many that she wasn't given.
Yeah, Mila Kunis too. She was that's like another revelation. Who'd have thought she could have done something as well as that? And if there's anybody I wish I was, it's that fucking Vincent Cassel. You saw like he's incredible in that movie too, and he's terrifying as that director or whatever the hell he is.
Yeah, the ballet head of whatever he's doing.
Yeah, he's a very intimidating
It's interesting because
character.
I've seen a lot of like film analysis videos about Black Swan since I've seen it, and a lot of them talk about the more subtle and hidden messages and aspects of the movie, and it's really fascinating to me the way that Aronofsky shot that.
I think it's a much funnier film than people probably can remember. Like it's funny to me in a way like that Shame is in a lot of ways.
It's a odd movie. I know most people who aren't familiar with Aronofsky's style might be a little turned off by it if they're expecting more like a straightforward thriller, psychological thriller. This is not that. It's, I would say, much better.
I remember I was watching a discussion with a professor I had. He was talking to this critic in New York, and I think the critic had described Black Swan as being one of the most cliched things ever made, and I couldn't disagree more. I thought it was, if anything, mocking what you would consider cliches in that sort of ballet film.
Oh yeah, I agree.
Turning it on its head and just going fucking insane with it.
Yeah, that is on my list of movies to watch again pretty soon. Black Swan. Number 34. Uncle Boon Me Who Can Recall His Past Lives.
I'm gonna butcher the director. Pitchapong. Which I don't know how he goes by, like just Tom or Al or something. Is he a Korean director? Is he a
Thai
director? You haven't seen Uncle Boon Me Who Can Recall His Past Lives?
No, actually, I was scrolling through Netflix yesterday, seeing which movie from this list I wanted to watch so I could talk about it, and I actually came across this, and I read the little blurb that they had about it, and I thought, what the hell is this movie? I don't know if I was like mentally like ready for something something like this. I don't know if that's the way the movie is, like if it's really surreal in a way.
It is.
It struck me as that kind of movie.
You will feel every minute of it. That's a good thing. It is a very hypnotic film. It is unlike. It's unlike anything else out there. I mean, this guy is doing stuff that nobody else is doing.
That alone makes it worth watching.
I mean, it's if you can pinpoint what it's about this family who this guy he's dying, he's sick, and he's kind of spending time with I don't even know what the hell, if it's his nephew and his sister, or I don't know what the hell they are, but they are a family, and he's, you know, they're just chilling, and he's visited by the ghost of his dead wife. He's visited by, I don't know if it's his son, that's kind of become this like almost Yeti-like creature with these like weird glowing red eyes. And I swear that when I first watched it, I shut it off 5 minutes. I just knew I'm not in the mindset for this. I already know what this is. And then when I finally got through the whole thing, I mean, it was just, I mean, it is such a strange trip to go through. There is this scene in it where they're sitting. It's beautifully shot too, and like you really feel like you are in, you know, the woods or wherever the fuck they are in the summer. You're hearing the sound design going on there. It's almost Terrence Malick like. You know, you feel the heat of the environment, and you feel that you're actually eating dinner with these people, you know, in this cabin on this patio, and when these things start happening, you know, it's shocking and jarring, and it's such a hard film to describe. And it's magical in a lot of ways, and it gets a little, you kind of got to go with it.
Mm-hmm.
They start talking about myths and these strange stories.
I'll have to add that to my list.
Yeah, it's a hard film to describe other than it's an experience. It really is.
All right. Excuse me. Number 33 is, this would be in my top, maybe my top one. 12 Years a Slave.
For sure, man. I don't know if I like Hunger or 12 Years a Slave better, but 12 Years a Slave are, from last week, our frightening movie couples.
Oh yeah.
Did you think of any other ones?
I did. I thought of one more, and it's very shocking to me that I couldn't think of anybody else. Mm-hmm. It seems like there would be a pretty solid list.
I didn't want to force it.
Yeah, like there's really not a whole lot of examples that I could think of. Maybe there are like a dozen or so good ones out there, but the only one I came up with was the elderly couple from Rosemary's Baby.
Mm-hmm. And just you telling me that, I'm thinking of there's this old movie with Dabney Coleman from the 80s called Cloak and Dagger. Have you ever seen that?
No.
It's it's like a kid's movie. It's, the kid who plays Elliot in E.T. is in it. Mm-hmm. He's kind of obsessed with spies and video games, and he kind of gets mixed up in this spy thing with a video game. And it has this elderly couple in it that they remind me of the elderly couple in Rosemary's Baby, that kind of creepy elderly couple. So that would be my suggestion for the week. The elderly couple from Cloak and Dagger, and yours is the elderly couple from Rosemary's Baby.
Yeah, old people are terrifying, apparently.
But 12 Years a Slave, I mean, Michael Fassbender is like, God, always what I remember from that movie. We've talked about it in the past. I know that scene when he pulls him out, asking him about the letter. It's lit by the lantern.
Yeah, that.
Oh man.
12 Years a Slave is, in my opinion, one of the best examples of using long takes extremely well. Mm-hmm. It's not just done for just to do it.
Yeah.
I think a lot of Hunger was done that way. A lot of other movies too. But like you said, the scene with the lantern where he brings him out, if you cut around in that shot, then you're ruining all the tension that's building up by seeing these characters standing out there, like lit only by the lantern, not doing anything. There's a lot of drama and suspense in their inactivity as Michael Fassbender's talking to him. And then I love when he walks away and all the light goes with him, and the character just falls into darkness.
Yeah.
The lighting in this movie is unbelievable.
There's God, that Paul Dano might play the most racist character in the history of cinema in that movie.
Yeah, probably.
He's a creepy.
There's another great, really, another great example of a long take where the character Solomon Northup is hanging.
You feel that.
Like a centimeter, like his toes are like almost touching the ground.
Yeah.
And it's a steady shot.
Yeah.
It doesn't cut away. The camera doesn't move.
Yeah.
And he's just sitting there, and there's no music, and all you hear is the tension on the rope as he's trying to steady himself.
You hear the feet in the mud.
Yeah, and
trying
then
to hold himself up.
in the background you see
Everybody's just going about their business.
Everybody just walks out and starts the day as if like this is a normal thing going on here.
Nobody gives a shit. They're like, yeah, business as usual.
What a great way to illustrate like the situation this guy was in, and like how he could have died easily, and nobody would care. Like nobody else in his situation would be like, whatever. They're just gonna go about their day.
Yep, that was the world they were living in. It was common occurrence. It was just that was life. There's my favorite shot in the movie is it's toward the end there, right before he's rescued, where it's just like that kind of medium close up on his face, where he's just like he's kind of wide eyed and just looking around, slowly moving his head, and you could see kind of out of focus behind him just those trees, and they really intensify the sounds of the bugs in the wilderness around him, and it just kind of grows and grows. And I was just like, oh my god, this shot, if it sums up this movie, and the motherfucker in the theater goes, this is boring.
Really?
It just takes you out of it. Like, who says that during 12 Years a Slave?
Yeah, right? Why are you even there?
Obnoxious prick.
That's why I only go to movies extremely late at night or first thing in the morning when kids are in school or they're asleep.
Yeah.
Everybody else.
One of my favorite, because I usually go early in the morning, but that's when all the freaking old people go. I went to see the movie The American, George Clooney. I don't know if you ever saw that movie.
No, I haven't. It is on my list of movies to see, though. I think you recommended it to me before.
Oh yeah, it's a great. It's like a samurai movie in a lot of ways. Where he's building a gun. It's like he's building a sword, but that has one of my all-time favorite sex scenes in a movie, and it is so well made. And it is cool, and you are totally in there. And this old lady, boy, she wanted everyone in that theater to know that she was uncomfortable and did not like what she was seeing. And it's like it is a long scene, and it doesn't need to be that long. I don't know, but it worked, and I'm totally engaged in it, and it's well made, and it's tasteful. And this old lady is like, this is so filthy. Why do they have to show this? And I was like, shut up.
Yeah.
Take shot.
The people you're talking to don't give a shit. Yeah. Send an email. Yeah, I can't say a whole lot more about 12 Years a Slave that I didn't already say without just rambling on for an hour. It would just be an exercise in adjectives and hyperbole. The movie's that good.
I read somewhere somebody said there's a violin screech in the score that's repetitive that kind of is reminiscent of Godzilla's scream.
Really?
I don't know who said that or where, but yeah. That's a great way to describe it.
Number 32 is a movie called White Material.
I haven't seen it.
Neither have I.
I don't even know what it's about.
Nope, neither do I. It's a movie from France. Story of a white plantation owner trying to hold on to her ideas around the world within the crumbling social order of an unnamed African country. Seems very heavy. In a 12 Years a Slave.
Or just heavy?
No, like in a 12 Years a Slave sense. It's not easy viewing.
Right. Set aside an evening. It's not a date movie, dudes.
No. No way. I can't say anything else about it. Other than, look up the trailer.
Right.
Number 31's a movie called No. Have you seen it?
I haven't. I've been meaning to for a long time.
No, me neither. I don't even know what it's about.
I don't either. It's a Gael Garcia
Bernal,
yeah. He's in the Silence of Sleep, I think. You ever see that?
No, I want to
That's a
though.
really good
I
movie.
really want to.
It was kind of riding on the wave of what I would call like those. I think Michel Gondry made that.
He did.
He did? Okay, yeah. It was kind of riding on the wave of those sort of. I hate some indie movies
Yeah.
when it came out, but it's not as heavy as
Okay.
some of those. But it's in retrospect, it's a nice little film. But I haven't seen. No, I'd like to though.
Did you see number 30, Bridesmaids?
I did. Here's what I'll say about Bridesmaids. Maybe I didn't think it was as funny. Am I glad that it was made? Did I enjoy it? Yeah. But that was a movie. My mother was talking about that movie and enjoyed it and thought it was funny.
That was a huge hit.
And yeah.
Surprisingly. And
all I can say is, you know what? Somebody liked it and they had a good time. They were entertained by it, and it seems like that one was made for the girls, and they like it. I'm glad that Amy Poehler and Tina Fey write that with her.
I think so. I'm not 100% certain. I saw parts of the movie, but not the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
I saw scenes out of context, so I can't really, judge the movie in any way.
Mm-hmm.
It is just because of a lot of the heat that it picked up that it is something that I do want to see.
Yeah. There is one scene when they go shopping for their dresses, and are you familiar with that scene at all? Did you see that part?
No.
What ends up happening there? That was a laugh out loud, funny moment. How that scene concludes, but yeah, the dames really like that movie.
It's interesting to note. It's another very popular movie on this list. There aren't too many of those.
Yeah, no, they're not. Inception, I think, is probably the biggest
Yeah.
hit we've come across in terms of box office.
Oh, you definitely.
I can't think. It's all like you said, the more off the radar.
Yeah.
Stuff.
Number 29 we talked about last week. Selma.
Well,
I still haven't seen it, so I don't have anything else to add.
I don't know. Maybe I was a little harsh on Selma. I mean, everybody. Oh, it needs to be shown in history, social studies class. Fuck that. Show Malcolm X. Show Do the Right Thing. I think show Selma, I guess, if you want. I don't know. Selma is. It proved me wrong. I don't think Selma's going to be on the best of the decade list at the end of this decade.
I don't know. I mean, it's a lot of the heat came from the awards. Mostly in a sense that it wasn't nominated for what a lot of people thought it would be.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's a reflection of the movie's quality in any way, or if it's just people's perception of it.
You know what movie I liked a lot better? The Help.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What about number 20?
We could argue about that. There are people who they've made comments about The Help, and I'm totally willing to get into that fight.
The Help is not on this list.
Well, no, The Help's not on that list, but there was an argument where people were saying it's kind of those, the African American community needs white people to stand up and help them. I felt that what The Help demonstrated is that community was in such dire circumstances that they did need the help of the white community to pull them up there so that they could say, hey, no, we are together here. We are on your side. We are going to help you pick up. Because they couldn't have done it without their help.
Yeah.
Not that it's white people they're going to save the day. It's no, they needed somebody to stand up with them.
Mm-hmm.
I thought The Help demonstrated that in a very good way.
Well, number 28, this is a movie that I know we disagree on. Kill List.
You know what? Did you watch all of Kill List?
No, here's the story about...
Did you watch all of Kill List? Did you see the whole movie from beginning to end?
No.
Okay, so then that's why we disagree on it, because
The-
I felt the same way until I got to the end of it.
Well, no, here's the thing. I originally started watching the movie. I heard nothing but great things about it. I put it on, and I shut it off before 20 minutes had elapsed. I was bored to the point that I literally turned it off and went to bed. That was the more exciting option to me. There was nothing happening in that movie where I felt like engaged. Like, I didn't like the characters. I didn't like the situation they were in. I didn't care about their goal. I didn't care about the way it was shot. I didn't like the way it was shot. I didn't like the movie at all. Like, nothing about the movie I liked. Shut it off. And you said go watch the movie because the ending's worth it. And other people have told me the same thing. So I tried to watch the movie again. And the same thing happened. I'm like, I'm just so fucking bored. So I skipped ahead. Like, I skipped the whole middle of the movie. And I got to the third act.
Yeah.
And that was very unexpected, interesting, but also disappointing that such a great idea could be in such a shitty movie.
It seems like you're watching it out of context. I think if you're patient with it, yeah, it's a hard one to get through because it is a slow movie up until the end.
It's not an enjoyable movie either.
Which adds to it. I mean, those aren't enjoyable situations that they're involved in.
And to me, it's a movie shouldn't, like, you shouldn't have to tough out a movie just to get to the good part. Like, why isn't the whole thing good?
Well, to me, the way I think of it is one of my favorite films is Takashi Miike's Audition. Have you ever seen that?
Yes.
The way I just feel blindsided and cheated as a human being watching that, that's another movie where it's like the first, let's say the movie's 2 hours, the first hour and 45 minutes are one thing, and then the last 15 minutes tell you what this movie really is and what's going on there.
Yeah.
And that's how I felt with Kill List. I felt cheated in a good way.
I wasn't the biggest Audition fan either. I liked it a lot more than Kill List.
Really?
Yeah, Kill List is, wow, that's a...
There aren't many better than Audition.
Kill List is a movie that was
Kill
made...
List and Audition is a double feature.
This movie is not made for me. Not my kind of movie.
Ben Wheatley is the guy who made Kill List. He's made some pretty great films. Sightseers. That's a good one to check out too. And makes these really strange movies. Like they are demanding though.
Yeah. Number 27's Amour.
Michael Haneke.
Yeah, I saw some of his work. I'm not he's not on my list of favorite filmmakers.
Me neither.
He is very talented. Amour seems...
Yeah, he has a style all his own.
Yeah, Amour had a lot of recognition when it came out. I don't know a whole lot about it. It seems very simple. Like, this woman has a stroke, and I guess this guy cares for her, and that's the whole movie. I don't... Maybe I'm totally wrong.
In his review, Mark Kermode summed it up as, it is literally the representation of the line, in sickness and in health, till death do us part. That is what Amour is.
Yeah.
It is...
I could see the movie being very affecting. It's something I want to see, but it's also not the kind of movie that I'm going to put at the top of my list. It seems, like I said before, heavy.
It's very much so. It's an upsetting film. It's... you want to talk about a real love story. I mean, Amour, love. And that's what it is. It is about... Chris Rock has this, the great line about how if you haven't thought about wanting to murder the person you're with day in and day out, you haven't been in love.
Yep.
And it's Amour kind of embodies that spirit where it's like, you are going to be... Until you really see the lowest, most upsetting, disgusting, heartbreaking moments with a person, like that is what love really is. One of my favorite, more could be summed up, I think, with also in the movie The Savages, Philip Seymour Hoffman and Laura Linney.
Oh, I love that movie.
One of my greatest Philip Seymour Hoffman moments is the when Laura Linney's all excited about the nursing home they found for their father, and Philip Seymour Hoffman just goes off about how the nursing homes aren't for relatives or for the landscaping and
Yep.
Then they try to make it look fun. It's not for the residents, it's for the relatives, and it's disguising the fact that people are dying in there, and death is nothing but a shitty, miserable horror show of piss and vomit, and he goes, the landscaping and the activities are just there to hide the fact that people fucking die. And
Yeah.
that is what Amour really is. Not my favorite Michael Haneke film. That'd probably be The White Ribbon, because that's a very scary film, I think. But Amour is a upsetting little chamber piece to look at.
Cool. The next movie on our list, I'm very upset that I didn't get the chance to see it. It was streaming on Netflix in the US for quite a while, and by the time I went to look for it, it was already gone. It's Bong Joon-ho's Mother.
I haven't looked at that one yet, and I agree it was on Netflix for a long time. I wanted to look at it. He made The Host. He made...
Snowpiercer.
He did make Snowpiercer. He did Memoirs of Murder, right? Memories of Murder?
Yes.
He's a great filmmaker. I can never remember if it's Memoirs of Murder or Memories of Murder.
I think it's Memories.
It's Memories of Murder. That is you want to talk about a thriller and an intense experience? That movie is one. That is thriller.
I still have to see that. That's at the top of my list.
That is 2 hours of edge of your seat.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a fantastic filmmaker. Really great at what he does. And he stands out in such a talented crowd from that area, that country. So many great movies being made.
If Mother, I haven't seen it, I want to see it. If it's half as good as any of those we just mentioned that he made, then it's absolutely worth your time.
Yeah.
Memories of Murder is a friggin' masterpiece. Snowpiercer, that'll be on the list, I bet.
Yeah, that's one of those movies.
I don't think it's on this list here, but I bet it'll be on
yeah, I tell everybody that I know, watch Snowpiercer, and everybody that sees it is like, wow, that was great.
Yeah. It's good to see, still, not knowing anything about Snowpiercer really adds to it.
Oh yeah, definitely. You want to know nothing about that movie.